What does his text mean?
So frustrating.
Maybe he's just not that into
know
me.
if she really likes
I've
me.
always been bad
How
at
can I
flirting.
get her attention?
I'm ready for
I just
marriage.
want somebody to share my life.
Is this
relationship
relationship
going anywhere? Modern Love Made Simple. This is Dates and Mates with Damona Hoffman.
Hello, lovers. Welcome to another steamy episode of Dates and Mates. As always, we are broadcasting live from Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, and we are here to demystify modern love and make it simple for you. And there's one topic that seems really complicated for a lot of folks, but it should be something that comes naturally. And, you know, after a tense couple of weeks, we were talking about politics last week, and things have been a little bit heavy. I thought, why not lighten it up and bring sexy back in this episode? So we'll be talking to Caitlin V, a sex and relationship coach who helps men and women all over the world have better sex. Seems like it should be natural, but hey, it sometimes takes a little coaching for the natural instincts to kick in. So we'll talk about building the confidence and skills that will have you living your best life in and out of the bedroom in a little bit. But first, we will hit the headlines, including J-Lo telling us what qualities you should look for in a man. And then we have the scoop on which dating app has the most users in your state. You want to make sure you are where the singles are. Plus, we'll discuss how new parents can improve their relationship. Then we'll be answering your questions, including what does casually dating on Tinder really mean? And what to do when your man sends you mixed signals in bed. Did you like, producer Leah, how I added it was like the fortune cookie thing, like
Yeah.
mixed signals in bed. Remember that? Like,
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, it's a really fun game that has absolutely no point. But if you get a fortune cookie, just read the fortune and then you add in bed to the end, and then everyone will laugh and laugh and laugh, and there's no point to it. But it's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. And it could be like a fun little flirtatious thing to do with your partner, right?
Mhm.
You go out to
Yeah.
dinner, you get your fortune cookie, and then, yeah, it's like,
And that's how the night starts. I love it.
yes, but maybe not how the night ends. All right, producer Leah, are you ready to do this dish?
I'm ready for the dish.
Dee's dating dish.
Well, J-Lo clearly knows what she's doing in the dating and relationship
yeah.
department. Well, Tinder thinks that she does. So they included her on an episode of Swipe Sessions, a new video series from them. And here's the deal. According to J-Lo, men are pretty much useless until they're 33.
I thought that was so funny.
I'm so sorry for all of my male listeners that are 33 or under. I don't feel that you're useless, but J-Lo sure does. It doesn't matter. She's with A-Rod anyway.
Yeah.
It seems to be going fine. I actually think that's a really good match because they both have like major ego.
Yeah.
And it came out a little bit on this episode. In Swipe Session, she's helping this young woman, Brooke, a 29-year-old country singer, to sort through her possible suitors on Tinder, and they're swiping and messaging. The funny thing, and I'll talk about this a little bit at the end of the show when I do my rant, but Brooke said she wanted the kind of guy who could chop wood.
It was really specific.
Is very specific, maybe a little too specific. And, you know, J-Lo is like swiping left and right, but mostly left.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they went to, when I say they, I'm like, who is they? It was Insider, went to a relationship expert, Dr. Jane Greer, who actually I've been on her show a couple of times. She's a fabulous relationship expert. And they're like, is there any truth to this? Like, guys are not ready for a relationship until they're 33. And she actually said J-Lo's advice was pretty solid. And she said, especially if you're looking for a commitment, men can be, you know, taking their time in their 20s to establish themselves in their profession and get a sense of financial stability. And that's something that I definitely see with men. They don't want to commit until they feel secure.
Right.
But that I don't think that comes with a number, an age.
Yeah, I think everybody matures at a different pace, and it's kind of unfair to place a number on that. But maybe that's just JLo's experience.
Yeah, didn't she date like Drake or somebody for a second?
Yeah. It was just 2 dates. It was just 2 dates though.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you got to take responsibility for your choices, J-Lo, as well. And I will say I had this misconception as well when I was dating. And at the time I started dating Mr. Hoffman, we're the same age. We're still the same age. No, actually, my birthday's in 2 weeks, so he's still an older man. But I thought I needed to date a guy older, so I was searching a year to 10 years older.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was very, very casually dating a guy who was 10 years older.
Uh-huh.
And when I met Seth, I was like, "You're way more mature than this
The
guy that's
who's
10 years older." And he was ready for a commitment. I mean, we didn't get married until 4 years later,
Yeah.
but he was ready for a commitment. He was looking to settle down. He was looking to be serious and monogamous. And here this older guy was like, drinking on a
casually
Wednesday.
dating,
And I was like, grow up. So I'm just going to take the counterpoint. I love Dr. Jane Greer. I'm going to take the counterpoint on this one, though, and say you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Got it.
But I do agree that men like to be established before they make a commitment and take on the responsibility of being a partner to someone.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's interesting.
I don't know if girls are the same way. No.
I don't know.
No. Let us know what you think. You can tweet me your reply. So as you're out there in these dating streets looking for your match, let me give you some shortcuts. You want to be where the singles are. You want to increase your chances of making a match by being on an app where there are more matches to be had, don't ya?
Yes.
So our friends over at Simple Texting, which is an SMS and text marketing service, they looked at data from Google searches in all 50 states. Seems like a very tedious job. Using like one person at Simple Texting being like, which sites are people searching for?
The most, yeah.
But this is really good information because this tells us which sites people are most interested in each state. So I'm going to give you some of the headlines, and then you can look up the data yourself if I don't mention your state. But turns out California and Hawaii are big coffee meets bagel fans.
I thought that was really interesting. I didn't expect that at all.
Why not, producer Leah?
I don't know anybody on Coffee Meets Bagel.
I guess you're a millennial.
Yeah.
The old
true.
folks love it. The old
Okay.
folks like me, like middle-aged people, because they're really busy. They don't have time for a lot of searching and sorting and swiping.
Yeah.
They want one match in their inbox. Coffee Meets Bagel says they're highly curated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how curated they are, but I can tell you it does keep you from being overwhelmed if you're only looking at one person a day as opposed to 10 or 20 or
10 or
30.
20, right. Mm-hmm.
So I say it's also just like laziness, general laziness of Californians and Hawaiians. Like,
They're easy
we're like beach people. We don't want to do that extra work of all the swiping and, the messaging and all of that. We just want it hand delivered to us.
But if there are any millennials on Coffee Meets Bagel, let us know. Prove me wrong.
Yes, and also maybe you can find an older man. Coffee
True.
Meets Bagel.
A 33-year-old.
Okay, so Florida surprised me on this one. They said their favorite app was Huggle, and that I had never heard of
You have to
Huggle.
look that up.
It's a
because-
location-based app, I guess, sort of like Happen.
Oh, interesting.
And they're saying, well, convenience is king there. So,
oh.
but not everybody was
Yeah.
into these. I'll call them up-and-coming fringe apps. Some people like the good old standards and the Match.coms of the world. Illinois preferred Match, as well as there was another one, New York.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I don't know a lot of people on Match my age, so you're right. Like, we made the same point as Coffee Meets Bagel, but yeah, I think that's really cool that it's popular in those states.
Okay, I'm going to throw you a curveball now because you're from Texas.
Yes.
Texas, it was her.
Yeah.
And for those of you, those
don't know.
breeders that don't know, her is actually a queer dating and social app. And it's very popular among lesbians, in case you can't tell from the name. I was
really
shocked.
surprised.
I mean, Texas is really surprising me on many levels this week.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
but I did
considering
not
the
expect to
election
see
and all.
her to be as one of the most popular apps.
Yeah.
So check out,
That
see
was
which
shocking.
which app is most popular in your area, and then you got to be where the singles are. So this is important, crucial information that we had to share with you. Some other information: if you're in a relationship or you're wanting to be in a relationship, you should know something about couples that are having a baby. You should know that paternity leave actually improves relationships, especially for dual income working couples. I was so happy to read this information and this study that came out from Ball State University. They looked at paternity leave and parental relationships, variations by gender, and mothers' work statuses. First of all, let's just acknowledge how cool it is that there's even a study of this, because paternity leave, really, even when I had my daughter 8 years ago, paternity leave wasn't really a thing for most companies.
Yeah.
And I remember my husband had to go back to work. I think it was 3 days. I mean,
Oh, that's soon.
he's a
yeah.
writer, so he's freelance, and he's not like it's not like a corporate gig. But he had to go back, I think, 3 days after we had her.
Oh gosh.
And that was hard. That was really hard for me, especially as a worker being someone that I wanted to get back into the workforce.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to leave. I have this picture of him like pouting and like, I have to go back.
Oh, that's so cute.
But it is just so challenging to take care of a newborn, and you're trying to form your family bond.
Yeah.
And it puts tremendous stress on the relationship when one partner is going back to like lead his regular life and the other partner is at home like dealing with feedings and changings, and in my case like recovering from surgery.
Oh God.
3 days later.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good vote for parental leave, paternity leave. And I'd really love to see more couples embrace that. And not just for the baby, but for the relationship. You want to have successful couples. You want your workers to be had a happy, healthy relationship, because then they're going to be more productive when they come back to work. So I think this is awesome. And I commend the companies that are doing paternity leave.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really cool, because I feel like if you sign up to have a baby, you should like raise it together. And
You're
I
so
mean,
modern, progressive.
companies should definitely allow their workers to do that.
Yes, and it
Give
can
them the
really help
time.
the relationship. And working mothers report less conflict if fathers take paternity leave and longer periods of leave. Not 3 days, y'all. I'm talking 3 months. And there's no judgment here. Because sometimes people judge the guys if they're on paternity leave. They're
Oh,
like,
really?
oh, yeah, dude, like, you got to take paternity leave. You're not really man enough to work through it. It's like people are tired. People aren't sleeping. Let this guy take his paternity leave without any judgment. Those are the headlines of this week. When we come back, sex expert Caitlin V will be here to talk about how we can all have better sex. But first, before we go to break, I want to thank all of the subscribers at datesandmates.com. Those of you who are part of my community who can join me for the free monthly calls. If you love this show and you want more and you want some personalized dating advice, go ahead and go over to datesandmates.com and sign up for either the relationship boot camp or the texting 10 commandments, and that will get you on the list so that you can be a part of future exclusive events just for the Dates and Mates community. We'll be back right after this. It's cuffing season, which means you probably want to look good to attract a relationship, but it also means that you might be worried about holiday weight gain. I know I am. On average, people gain 2 to 5 pounds over the holidays, and you can fight to get it off in January like we all do, you know, the New Year's resolutions, or you can stop the holiday heaviness before it starts by beginning a program with Beachbody On Demand. In addition to looking great at those holiday parties where you might snag a hot date, exercise will also help you combat any holiday stress that you're dealing with. And with Beachbody On Demand, you can work out whenever, wherever you want, 24/7 with streaming access to your favorite programs, including 21 Day Fix, Pio, Insanity, Size, T25, P90X, P90X3, so many more. And now fans of Dates and Mates can get a 14-day free trial at Beachbody On Demand for the annual membership. And all you have to do is click the banner at datesandmates.com. You can try the entire Beachbody On Demand system completely risk-free and start your new lifestyle now before the holiday stress is upon you. So go to datesandmates.com and click the Beachbody banner at the bottom of the page to get started. Welcome back to Dates and Mates. I told you all it's going to get hot today. This might be an explicit rating show.
I think so.
We're still early into it. We're still easing into it, but I think it's going to get a little heated today because we have a very special guest who will be joining me in a moment. Caitlin V. She's a sex and relationship coach who helps men become amazing lovers and incredible partners. We were just talking about partnership a moment ago. Caitlin is a former sexual health researcher and policy analyst turned overnight YouTube sensation. She works with clients all over the world on developing unshakable confidence, sex skills, and intimacy. Intimacy, people. We need some more of that. She combines personal experience with evidence-based science in her coaching, and her mission is to create a sex and pleasure positive world. I think that's a world that we all want to live in. So please give big smooches to Caitlin V. Welcome to the show, Caitlin. I'm so excited that you're here with us because people are suffering. People are suffering. They're suffering.
They are.
They're suffering through bad sex. And I want to hear about this pleasure positive world that you are creating. What does that mean to live in a pleasure positive world?
I really like the term pleasure. Like, I like the idea that sex is not just about like what we feel in our. Well, okay, you just said, how explicit can I be on this show? I'll use some like scientific terms, okay?
Yeah, let's go science based, but with a little spice.
Yeah, okay. And I dig that. So we have a pretty sex positive world. Like, we see sex everywhere. It's on billboards, it's in television, it's in the media. Like, we might have some negative views about sex, but we certainly see it everywhere, right? It's used to sell everything to us, from like razor blades to bras, right? But we don't have a super pleasure positive world. And to me, pleasure is something that you can experience with your entire body. It's not just in your genitals, right? You can experience it with all 5 or 6 of your senses, right? You can look at pleasurable things, you can taste pleasurable things. And we have, like, pleasure has such a dirty name needlessly. So my vision is a world in which people are just like in pleasure, enjoying pleasure, making decisions based on what would give them the most pleasure, like communicating about the things that they want for their pleasure, and being pleasure centric and pleasure forward as well as pleasure positive.
Okay, you caught my attention on multiple levels, but there was something you said. You said 5 or 6 senses. Is there like psychic pleasure that's happening?
Oh, that's like a different. Actually, I have heard of that life force energy as our sixth sense, but no, our sixth sense, the way that I'm describing it, is proprioception, which is where our body is in space. So you don't accidentally like run into yourself, and that usually not on a good day, right? So there's a lot of pleasure in like knowing where our body is in space, stretching, moving, that kind of pleasure.
Super scientific today. Yeah.
I learned something new.
We always learn something new at Dates and Mates. So, Caitlin, now let's just define for our listeners what good sex means to you. You're a sexpert.
Just me, because I'm like, oh, that's a tough one. We could spend the rest of our time talking about what good sex means.
Because I think there's a lot of people that are like in relationships and having sex, but haven't really thought about what could be improved. We just do it. And especially like, I'll say even for me, like, I am a parent to 2 young kids. I ain't got a lot of time. Like, I'm all for the pleasure, but like, can you do it fast? I'm sure you've heard this before.
You can.
Can you do pleasure fast?
That's a great thing about sex. It's like there's such a wide variety. You can do it fast. You can do it slow. You can do it with different body parts. You can do it in semi-private. You can do it in semi-public, as long as you're really careful about it, right? It's like super flexible. But the thing that I like really want to touch on from what you said is that we often don't have as much like awareness of what's possible sometimes, right? We get really into our lane and our relationship, or we're really busy and we make time for sex and we kind of get to know our partner and what works for them. I touch them here, I touch them there. It was like cracking a safe. I know that the code doesn't really change time over time. So I know how to get to that point. And we don't imbue our lives with all kinds of different ideas about what's possible sexually. And so we don't always know, like, of the massive buffet of options that are available to us, which ones we even want to try out. And that's the part that takes some time. It's like exposing yourself to all of these different ideas and tastes and flavors. And, even just take something like role modeling or role playing. Totally different category.
I mean, you could do both, I suppose.
Yeah, you can role play as a role model.
Role model, like well, you are a role model for many in the sex and relationship community. So let's say somebody does want to experiment a little more, and I totally understand what you're saying about cracking the safe, and it's like, oh, well, I know the combination already, so I do this and do that, and then the safe opens. But yeah, let's be a little more adventurous. What are some ways that those who have just been going along the same path for 5, 10, 15 years in some people's case, how can those people be more adventurous and step into a space of exploration?
Well, it begins by appreciating that even really tiny changes can open up vast areas for exploration, right? So the example of role playing, you don't have to go and throw on like a polyester Halloween costume and be like a sexy pirate in order to role play, right? It could be like a little accent. It could be a little, just a suggestion. It could be a toy or a whip or a crop or something that is small but tangible that allows you to access sort of a different side of yourself, or even a different character, a different persona that can feel safe and slightly outside of your comfort zone. But if you're looking for more imagery, more things that kind of like spark your imagination, I would say the place to start is by connecting sexually to yourself. So asking yourself, like, am I putting sex in this box where it's something that happens on Friday and Wednesday nights between 9 and 10 p.m. and this is exactly what we do, and that is the only time that I allow myself to be or feel or think sexual thoughts, right? If I break that open a little bit and I allow myself to think about sex during the day, think about sex while I'm grocery shopping, think about sex while I'm watching television or consuming media, then suddenly you're going to start to notice that things that you previously didn't associate with sex or sexiness or arousal actually do spark your arousal. Maybe it is pirates, but maybe it's like it could be a lot of things, but you have to allow yourself to be sexual in order to notice what those things are for you.
I love that. So you mentioned also media a couple of times in that, and let's just put it all out there. Porn. Now, I hear a lot of times from women that men are watching too much porn, and that porn is affecting the ability of men and women to connect in the bedroom because they have different, expectations from what they see on mostly online. What is your experience as a sex and relationship coach? What do you see as the effect of porn, and how can we undo any damage that it's been doing to us?
Yeah, that is a great question. And okay, I'm a sex coach who works primarily with men who suffer from performance anxiety, right? And often what that means is a combination of premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction, and sometimes both. And what I've seen personally and professionally is that when men stop using porn, it changes the way that their body reacts, brings it back to kind of what you were saying earlier, like its natural state, because porn is not your natural state. Having access to thousands of women doing completely off the wall and deranged stuff like within a couple seconds of your desiring it. That's not your natural state. Humans did not evolve to have that kind of access to sexually relevant material. We just didn't. Our brains are way too sensitive to that, and they don't have the ability to filter that information. Essentially, it's like watching a movie, watching Jurassic Park, right? And not having the capacity to know that this is just a movie, this isn't happening, right? When we watch porn, we don't have the capacity to say, this is a movie, this is a movie, this isn't real. And what ends up happening is men compare themselves to porn stars, they compare their female partners to porn stars. Young men, especially today, because kids who are growing up today, or even men who are turning 25, even 30 years old, have had access to porn their entire lives. So they've never known their adult body without access to internet porn. And it can, for some men, it has no effect, and they can totally use internet porn. Some men even are able to pull ideas and inspiration from porn and bring that into the bedroom and report to me that it's been a huge support in their sex life. And that's great. But that is not the majority of men. The majority of men actually have I would consider unhealthy relationship with internet porn because of the subconscious effects that it actually has on their brain, and that trickles down into the effects that it has on their body.
That is so interesting, and I had never heard that before, Caitlin. So thank you for enlightening us on that. Would you say then, is it more constructive if a man is interested in watching porn and he's in a relationship? Would it be more constructive for him to try to watch it with his partner, or would you just say like, just put it aside while you're trying to connect?
Yeah, I would say don't watch it at all. It's difficult for me because I don't want to make a blanket statement and say that you should never watch porn. There's definitely instances where porn can be a good thing. I think you should watch really quality porn, like that the actors and the producers and everyone who's making it is really passionate about what they do. Everyone is paid fairly. Everything is done, by consenting adults, and there's no questions there, and there's transparency in that. Like just the same way that I want people to consume high quality fruits and vegetables. Anything that you put in your body or watch with your eyes should be, up to your ethical standards. So I think if you're selecting your porn really carefully, or if you have a fetish that can't truly be achieved through like normal life. People have fetishes about women being giant and smashing buildings, or under the sea creatures, and there's a lot of really cool porn that's available that supports fetishes that really can't be brought into this life, this realm, right? More in the realm of fantasy, and that porn should exist. People should have access to that porn. But if you find yourself watching porn just to get aroused, just to get off, if porn is just a part of your sexual practice every day and it's mindless and you're not engaging with it in a thoughtful way, then get rid of it. Get rid of it for 60 to 90 days at least. Reconnect with your body, reconnect with your partner, and then you can slowly reintroduce it. And even then, I would recommend only reintroducing it one actress at a time, instead of opening up the harem again, which again, your poor little lizard brain just didn't evolve to be able to handle that much stimulation.
I have learned so much. Giant women, underwater sea creatures. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's so real.
So you did say that a lot of the men that you work with are dealing with performance anxiety. And so, we have a lot of guys that listen to the show. We have a lot of women that are having sex with guys. Some who listen to the show, some who do not. And I think, like you said, premature ejaculation and performance anxiety they're real. They're real. So,
and they're common.
They're common. And I know on your YouTube channel, you have so many videos that help men through this, but can you give us a couple of tips for how you help men overcome performance anxiety?
Thank you for asking. Number one is always practice how you play. This is also a helpful advice for women too. So the sex that you have solo by yourself impacts the sex that you have with a partner. A lot of people think that there's no relation between those two and they should be able to just switch from one to the other, no problem, get different results, body's going to behave differently. And again, your brain is just not that advanced. It thinks about sex basically in the same, whether you're having it by yourself, having it with a partner, or watching someone else have it on a screen in front of you. So for men who have performance anxiety, you can use your solo playtime as practice, whether that's lasting more than 5 or 10 minutes, right? Don't expect that you can masturbate for 5 minutes, but then when you get with a partner, you're going to last an hour. right? That there's not a one-to-one translation there. So my advice is and for women, if you only use a toy in your solo sessions and then you hop in bed with your partner, your husband, and you expect that he's going to be able to mimic the sensations of a vibrator, most men are not capable of producing something like that, right? So it's not going to be, there's some out there who've shown pretty impressive skills, but still those like magic little bullets are really strong and they're really potent and they're great. Like you should totally use them. And if you need them to get off over here, it's okay to need one to get off over here, right? You can't expect different results solo and part. And that's like always my advice. The other thing that I really recommend for people who are having performance anxiety, and remember, performance anxiety also impacts women, right? It impacts them differently. For men, that might look like PE or ED. You know, they might not physiologically be able to have sex if they have really intense performance anxiety. But women, the way that we experience performance anxiety is kind of by disconnecting, by shutting down, by disassociating, by getting into our heads about how we look and how's my butt look and can he see that pimple and do I have cellulite from this angle? Like that is similar and can have massive effects on our ability to have pleasurable sexual experiences. So it's true for both men and women that thinking about our performance or our performing instead of enjoying and being in the moment and appreciating what's going on in our bodies, that detracts from like the beautiful and wonderful thing that sex can be. And then one more point is not to be so goal oriented. Many people are really focused on sex as if it is just a race to a finish line, right? And if both of us get there, that's great. Maybe we both get there at the same time. That's great. But we put so much emphasis and so much focus on this goal that we forget that it's really about the journey. And there's so many great things that can come about the journey. And putting the focus on feeling pleasure during the journey takes a lot of the pressure off of the goal. Actually, counterintuitively makes it way easier to achieve orgasm.
Oh, wow. You're like really blowing my mind here, Caitlin.
This is really informative. Yeah.
So as a sex coach, I know you do a lot of videos and you offer a lot of content through your channel at youtube.com/CaitlinV. But and it's Caitlin with a C. But also you do coach individuals as well on their performance anxiety, correct?
Yep, I coach men, some women, and then some couples.
So what if somebody is listening to this like, oh, I might have a problem. I might need to talk to somebody. What can someone expect in working with a sex coach one-on-one?
Ooh, I love this question. So
Thank you.
I'm
just curious. Inquiring minds just want to know.
You'd be surprised how few people ask that question because once they've decided that they need help in this, they're like, okay, whatever. Like, just help me. I don't care what it looks like. I just need help. But what I do is a mix of really tangible and practical advice. So things that people can put into practice right away, like talking about solo sex. How are you having a sexual relationship with yourself? Like, how can we make adjustments to that week over week that are going to help to create real and lasting and super, tangible changes right away in your body? But that's probably like, I don't know, 1/10 of what I do because it works on its own. So you just kind of set it and forget it. The rest of what I do with my clients is I create individual coaching programs that touch on relationship skills, that touch on communication, that touch on like how to separate yourself and your ego from your partner, how to see your partner as a full human being and not just as your partner. Right? For so many people, that's completely mind-blowing, especially if I'm working with a couple that one person had an affair or there was an episode of cheating, right? Sometimes it's really hard for someone to see that their partner is a person outside of the relationship, and getting to those places helps them to heal or move forward. Or, in some instances, I have people that come to me like in the middle of a divorce because sex came up as one of the issues of their marriage and one of the reasons that they ended up splitting up, and they don't want to ever make those mistakes again. In which case I tailor a coaching program that's got a little bit more of an emphasis on sexual healing as well as skill development. So, and then once all of that really great foundation has been set, like after people are understanding a little bit more about themselves as a sexual being, about their partner as a sexual being, and like removing some of the shame and stigma that's often accompanies sex, then I get to teach them what I think is like the coolest part of my job is I have this library of amazing sexual resources, right? Things about anatomy, things about techniques, things about like stirring the creativity and ideas on what to bring into the bedroom. And then I get to teach them that. And like that's what people think that they're coming to learn most of the time. They're like, teach me all the tips and the techniques. I want to have to like scrape her off the ceiling when we're done. And we'll get there, but we have to lay a really, really strong foundation first, or else all the great techniques in the world won't do you any good.
I want those resources. I think everyone wants those resources. But you're so right. It's the same thing, I think, with dating coaching and why I'm a dating coach versus a matchmaker. Like people, they just want to get to the end. Like, just give me the date. And I'm like, no, we have to do some healing and figure out why this pattern keeps occurring and fix it and fix your dating strategy. And then the date will come. But, a lot of people don't want to go through the process, but it's really great that you're showing people the value in the process as well as giving them those tools and resources and techniques as well. So we have more questions, Caitlin. So I hope you can stick around because we want to go into our next segment, and I got to get your insights. You've taught me so much already.
Well, yes, I'm delighted. Throw them at me. Let's do it.
Okay, let's hit it.
Technically dating.
All right, this question comes to us from a young lady. She says, we matched on Tinder, and he told me he just wants to date casually, she put in quotes. And I was totally fine with that. When we met up, the date went fine until he asked if I wanted to go home with him. I said I wanted to get to know him better, but would he be open to it in the future? He got upset with me because he said I misled him. Obviously, he's the worst, and I'm not going to see him again. But did I misunderstand? What does casually dating mean? Did she misread the symbols here?
I don't think so. I think in this case, if what she's saying is accurate to the kind of message that they exchanged, he is at fault here because he wasn't explicit in what he meant by dating casually, right? He had no right to get upset because he didn't let her know in advance what his expectations were. He was using code words. And this, I think, comes from a result of like, we've got a lot of shame and stigma and we can't just like ask for what we want. If he had gone on there and said, hey, I'd like to take you out on a date. I'd like to bring you back to my place. I'd like to show you a good time. That's what I'm interested in, seeing how that goes, right? Not assuming that you're going to get consent over text message, but like laying that out more explicitly, even though some people are afraid that that's going to take the romance out of it. It would have saved everybody from having a rough end of a date where feelings were hurt and people ended up having to question if they misled someone. That's not fair.
Yeah, I think her interpretation of casually dating is correct. I think he's misusing the term casually dating. He just wants to hook up. Casually dating can mean anything in the range of I am not looking for a relationship to I want a one-night stand. And if you're not explicit, then you can't be mad that someone misinterpreted that. And I just feel like this kind of behavior makes me really annoyed. I feel like there are not a lot of women that are on Tinder like saying I just want to hook up. And you might disagree with me, Caitlin, but just in my experience,
I think they can't.
I don't think a lot of them are there out for that because like women for the most part have men trying to have sex with them all the time. So I don't know why it doesn't seem to me like he's going to get what he's looking for unless he's explicit about it up front. And then you can find that 0.1% of women that are like, yeah, I'm just here to get it in. Yeah.
I think they are out on Tinder, but they absolutely cannot put that in their profile because, as you said, there's enough men out there who are already trying to have sex with them that if you put like, I'm just here to hook up, the onslaught of messages that you're going to receive will make you want to throw your phone at the wall.
Yeah, I'm not into that. Okay. This one comes to us from another young lady. She says, my boyfriend is very particular when it comes to blowjobs. Now we get to really use your expertise, Caitlin. They're not my favorite thing in the world to perform, but he really likes them, so I don't mind doing it. The thing is, he gives a lot of instructions, and it gets annoying. He tells me to use more hands, and then 30 seconds later, he'll change his mind and ask for more tongue, and it's driving me insane. Thoughts?
Oh my God. That's a tough one. That is. I mean, I would
Let's
wanna
break it
know
down
how
into
long
two
they've been-
parts, right? Because there's like I don't really want to be giving a blowjob, but he likes it, so I'm going to do it. And then there's like all of the instruction, and then the telling her one thing and then telling her another thing.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot going
It's
on
really
there.
three
So
parts.
so much of sex is a collaboration, right? Because if there's going to be areas where it's not your favorite thing to do, but you're okay with doing it because your partner wants it. It doesn't sound like blowjobs are a hard no for her, because if they're a hard no for her and she's still doing it and then she's getting the feedback, like that's a recipe for disaster, right?
Yes.
It's like it sounds like he's not great at communicating. One of the greatest ways to give feedback is in a sandwich of compliments, right? So you say, "Oh, baby, that feels so good. I'd really love it if you'd add a little bit more hand," and then throw something else on there,
You're
and
so
they're like, "Oh,
sexy.
that feels good. That's great. That's exactly what I want."
Yes.
Right? Like there's ways to actually give feedback is great. Like it would give me more pleasure if fill in the blank, right? That is really positive. But it sounds like this guy isn't. It sounds like he doesn't know exactly what it is that he wants, because that's why he's changing back and forth. B, it sounds like he's being super particular, and maybe he's conditioned himself to have a specific kind of stimulation in order to reach orgasm. And if that's the case, I would say go back to what I said earlier, change the way that you self-pleasure, change the way that you fantasize, and see if he can do some of that work on his end in addition to her doing. Obviously, it sounds like she's already putting in a lot of work on her end.
Yes. I cannot top that advice, Caitlin. I definitely can't. I'll just add that I think it's okay if he's wanting different things from moment to moment, though, because you don't necessarily want like the same old stroke the whole time, right? You want a little variety. It's okay it's not necessarily that he is saying like, no, never use hands now. He's just wanting
Right.
a little more variety, right?
Right. And maybe go research other people's, like, there's tons of great resources out there. MissJaya.com. She put out a whole video on oral sex. Like, there's a lot of good resources out there on how to give great oral sex. So maybe go do some research, and that way you're getting information from someone who you're not romantically attached to. You're not trying to please that person. Like, go learn about the art of blowjobs. Maybe you'll find that you actually do like them. Maybe you've been like doing them the way that you thought people wanted it, and then it's a little bit different, and you can go gather more information on your own. It might make it better for both of you.
Great advice. Use the internet for good. Okay, one final question before we let you go, Caitlin V. This lady says, it occurred to me that I've gained a lot of weight since I set up my dating profile. I'm anxious about showing up to a date and not being what they expected. I also don't want to really be in pictures right now because I'm not confident in how I look. Should I warn my dates that I weigh more than they see in the pictures?
Ooh. I think this person wants to have it both ways,
Yeah.
right? They want to attract someone based on a previous version of themselves, and then they want to have that person like totally accept them, or at least just give them a heads up. Hey, I'm not what I look like in my profile. Like, how would you, if the roles were reversed and someone was doing that to you, dear writer, how would you feel?
You'd feel misled, right?
You'd want to be able to make an opinion and decide whether or not you were going to go out with that person based on something that was truthful and relevant and accurate, because you're not getting off on the right foot if they already feel like you've misled them in some way.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I always say you want your profile to be the best representation of yourself. And in general, I do not allow my clients to have old profile pictures. Like if it's 6 months, a year old, and you don't look like that anymore, and if it's over a year old, you probably don't. Toss it. Like the expectation is now that you have current photos, and there's no reason that you shouldn't. Now, if you are having body image concerns, that's something separate that maybe you and your counselor can work on. But what I'll tell you is I have clients that come to me and say, I can't date right now because I've gained 5 pounds or 10 pounds. And then when I lose those 10 pounds, then I'll be ready to date. And I just feel like you can't wait for your life to start. And if you find somebody who really loves you as you, like, oh my God, there's probably been in total like 120, 30 pounds that I've gained and lost over the 15 years of my relationship. And most of the time my husband says he doesn't even see it anyway when I'm like worried about it. But loving your own body I'm sure you talk about this as well with clients, is like finding the confidence in your own body at the size that it is, and not striving for this ideal image of who you think you should be to be dateable.
I also think that you have to love yourself to be loved by someone else, right? Like if it sounds
Preach, Caitlin, preach.
It sounds like maybe she's going into dating with some challenges around like her own self-image. And my next question would be, are you hoping to find someone who loves you as you are, or loves you as you want or expect yourself to be? So this could actually be a great opportunity for you to find some deeper acceptance first, and then find someone who doesn't even know a previous version of you. They're only getting to know this version of you. They've swiped right. They like this version of you. They're not comparing you to a previous version the way that you are. And but side note, go invest in professional photographs. I can't say this enough. Go get a headshot and ask your headshot photographer if they'll be willing to take a picture for your dating profile. Bring like a different costume, a different look,
Definitely get a full body. So it's truth in advertising. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Pay for how much are you willing to pay to look good in your dating profile and increase your odds, maybe even by 10 times, of attracting someone who you're really attracted to? Like, it's so worth the money. It's going to end up being less than you would spend on like 3 dates anyway. So go hire a professional photographer, and they're going to take a great picture of you no matter how much you weigh, because that's what they're trained to do.
Such great advice. I know there's so much more, Caitlin V, on your YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Caitlin V. And you're also on Instagram at Caitlin V. Neal. I am so grateful that you shared your insights on sex and relationships and pleasure positivity and so much with us today on Dates and Mates. Thank you for being here, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me. Anytime.
Before we go, I have gotten my panties all in a bunch, not because of this show, but because of something that's happening in the world of dating and relationships. So, producer Leah, I'm going to need you to put 60 seconds on the clock for me to do a Damona's diatribe about seeking qualities in a mate that you don't really need. All right, so I mentioned earlier in Tinder's swipe sessions that the dater wanted a guy who could chop wood. But then J-Lo asked, well, do you really need any wood chopped? And the answer was no. We all had a good laugh, of course, but this is an issue that I see often that needs to be addressed. It happened with Monet from my TV show, #BlackLove, when she was on Married at First Sight. She asked for a traditional guy, but then in the end, she didn't want to be a traditional wife. So for those of you who have your list of must-have qualities, I want you to look at it critically for a moment. Are these things that you've listed true must-haves and qualities that are they qualities that you've read about in fairy tales or that you've seen in movies that you think you need? Do you really want a career-focused, high-achieving guy if you're a career-focused, high-achieving woman who wants kids? Go through the list and ask yourself why you wrote each quality and how it would serve you in your life. Let's stop wishing for ideals that are dictated by society. Instead, focus on what you actually need in a partner and let your dating experience be guided by that. That's it for episode 237 of Dates and Mates. I would love to hear from you. Thank you, all of the listeners who've sent me your own dating challenges, who have emailed me at Damona@DamonaHoffman.com, who have messaged me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Damona Hoffman, or who've left me a voicemail at 424-246-6255. I love hearing from you. I love reading your reviews on iTunes, and I love healing more hearts. So please share this episode if there's somebody that you feel needs this information, and leave us a review to tell others how much you love Dates and Mates so we can reach more people and do more good in the world, because sure, everybody needs love. Thank you so much. We'll be back again next week, but until then, I wish you happy dating.